Hi. So I did a short about a week ago. I just did like a flick through the 2000 AD Definitive Edition Slaine Volume 2, but I wanted to do a more of an in-depth look at it because it's well worth it. It's a chunky volume as well. Pardon me. So just to give you an idea how big these are, this is your standard. Pardon me, I've just eaten. This is your standard American format graphic novel. So as you can see, it's a big beast of a boy. I think it's actually bigger than an omnibus, but yeah, very generous size. So this is Slaine Volume 2 by Pat Mills, Massimo Ballardinelli, Glenn Fabry, David Pugh, and Brian Talbot. I'll just read what it says on the back. It says, "The terrors of tomb and time. The definitive line continues with the highly regarded fantasy saga Slaine." And yes, I am saying Slaine. I had somebody saying, it's actually Slonia. I know the Irish pronunciation is Slonia, but I'm saying this now because I'm fed up of getting messages about this. I hate being mansplained to. But Pat Mills, he's a knowledgeable guy. He wrote Charlie's Well, which everybody should read. He knows his history. But he said it's pronounced Slaine because he wanted it to be a pun on a name, as in he's slaying somebody, he's slaying somebody. And he says, I am aware that it's Slania in Celtic, but how I wrote the character is Slaine. So there we go. Let's put that baby to bed, okay? But anyway, got out of my system. This reimagining of Celtic mythology, mixed with sword and sorcery tropes, stood out in the predominantly science fiction anthology 2000 AD, and it proved to be a testing ground for many acclaimed artists. With character-defining arcs such as Time Killer and Tomb of Terror, the second volume of the definitive Slaine sees the exiled barbarian facing new trials and tribulations, including a trip through time, which will have dangerous repercussions for everyone on Earth. And it showcases Pat Mills' epic storytelling alongside the art of Glenn Fabry, who of course went on to later fame doing covers for Hellblazer and Swamp Thing. Brian Talbot, Adventures of Live Arkwright and Sandman, and David Pugh, who did Danda. David Pugh's really interesting. You need to Google him. He's now actually put all that aside. He lives in India now, and he's like the chairman of this fantastic charity helping impoverished people, helping immigrants and things like that. It's just absolutely fantastic. But that's a by the by. That's just random shit I pick up in my head. But yeah, so it's a quite a chunky book. It's got about 280 pages. I think this could be some of the earliest. So that's a Glenn Fabry cover, and I think this does contain the earliest work of Glenn Fabry. What is good about this as well? It doesn't just have the stories; it's got any covers that Slaine appeared on. And what they did when they released one story in this, they had the regular strip, and then they had 2 pages of a choose your own adventure kind of role playing game. What they inserted in each weekly issue, and they've included that in here as well. So I'm tempted to try that to see what it's like. But what's even better, they also have quite a bit of back matter. Some really gorgeous sketches from David Pugh. And what's weird, David Pugh's artwork is so much nicer in pencils than it is when he inks his stuff. He's very heavy-handed with his inks. But if somebody else inks his artwork, he would be amazing. He's almost like a Glenn Fabry kind of artist when he's just doing his pencils, but his inks, which I'll come to in a minute, it kind of drowns his art style. But the first one, I think it's from an annual, which is a colour one. The art in this is by the original Slaine artist. Well, he wasn't the original. Anne Mills, Pat Mills' ex-wife, was the original artist, but Blardinelli then took over, and he's done this colour strip from one of the annuals. Because back in the day, 2008, they used to do hardback annuals, which they do again, which is brought back past few years now. So his artwork is gorgeous in colour. And this is what I like. I like how they've got basically, including all the bells and whistles, everything that features Slaine. So they've even got bits like extra scenes, what didn't make it to the original story. And this is by Glenn Fabry. And you can have a cut-out action figure if you so desire. And the cover page. But then we dive into the main story. So this is Slaine, Time Killer. And the art on this is predominantly Glenn Fabry it's very, very early Glenn Fabry. It's before he even found more fame when he did a longer run on Slaine. And that's where the American market really got wind of how good he was. So he kind of like did the front parts, the introductory chapter to this storyline, The Time Killer, and then he came back sporadically later on. But the predominant artist is David Pugh. But Glenn Fabry, even early Glenn Fabry, is a joy to behold. I've not read this yet, so I will do another video where I do give a review of it, see if it's as good as I remember it. If you want to look in my 2000 AD playlist, I have done an overview and a review of the first volume of the Slaine Definitive Editions, and also the Horned God, the Simon Bisley oversight massive monster of a beast of a book. I mean, that's just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. But then this is good. They also have a guide to the Time Killer, give you like a synopsis of the characters in case you're just jumping on. I remember reading the very first issue of 2000 AD with the very first episode of Slaine when it first appeared in 2000 AD back in 1980, 81, something like that. Blew my mind because I was into like the fighting fantasy playbooks and things. Let me just pause this because it's gone very hot in here. There we go. Phew. It's meant to be -0, -1 or something today, but I'm having hot flushes. But so yeah, Glenn Fabry does the first few chapters. As I said, it's early Glenn Fabry, so it's not as fully formed as it became in later time. But then David Pugh comes on for a very long stint, and this is very different to the earlier incarnation of Slaine, the one which was done by Mick Mann and also Ballard and Nelly. That was very much sword and sorcery, Celtic mythology. This incorporates more of a science fantasy kind of flavour. So there's time travel in this one. And David Pugh comes on. I hated his arts back in the day, but to be honest now, it's better than I remember it, I must admit. I think it's because I was spoilt by Glenn Fabry and Mick Mann and Ballard and Nelly, because I was a huge Ballard and Nelly fan. But there's some kind of punk about his style. He has an energy to it. So, like I said, this is a very timey-wimey story, and yeah, his artwork has definitely improved from what I can remember. There's some frantic kind of raucous energy to his art style, but like I said, Glenn Fabry does come on interspersed as well. Hold on, my speaker's making a noise. Get me exercise, get my steps in tonight. Oh, God. I am so professional, it's amazing. So yeah, Glenn Fabry comes back on. He's one of my all-time favourites. There's just such a vibrancy and energy and a cleanness to his line work. This is what I love about 2000 AD. They managed to cultivate artists who are very punk, have this unique energy. Mick Mann, Kevin O'Neill, Brett Ewins, Brendan McCarthy. But then you also get these who are very good at doing fine line artwork. Steve Dillon, Brian Bolland, Glenn Fabry, Barry Kitson, and many, many others who then go on to greater and better things. So it's fascinating seeing the early work in here. And again, David Pugh, I'm really enjoying his artwork nowadays. I think because I'm much more mature myself now, I can appreciate different art styles much more. And Glenn Fabry's on it more than I remember from when I read it back in the original progs, back in the original comics. Because he's back again here. So it's a heavy book. There's the paper quality as well. If you want to know about the paper quality, it's really, really high quality matte paper. This wonderful cover. And as I was mentioning about being like a role-playing game, what you could play every week. And then Glenn Fabry back again. Just look at this spread. That is just fantastic. I wish, 2000 AD do these Apex ones, which are like the best artist edition books you can get. Better than the ones, what, I've forgotten his name. The guy who used to do it for IDW. They're even bigger, the Apex ones. I know Geeky Hog, do check out his channel. He's bought a few and they're really, really beautiful. I'd love for them to do Glenn Fabry's artwork like that. Because, I mean, just look at the detail here, like showing these giant feet. Just gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. And then a bit more Dave Pugh. So, as you can see, there's a lot. Even though the styles are quite different, they kind of mesh as well. David Pugh's artwork is more like a weirder version of Glenn Fabry's. And so they kind of balance each other out. And that's one thing I like about the 2000 AD over any other comic company. They try and keep the creative teams to as small a group as possible to give it continuity. So like for Slaine, there's just two artists fluctuated. So one will do a chunk and another one will do a chunk. Whereas if this was DC and Marvel, there'd be about 50 different artists in a run of a comic. So yeah, really, really impressive. It's, like I said, heavy book, big chunky size. It's $29.99 UK British pounds, America $39.99, Canada $50 to $4.99. But you can obviously find it cheaper elsewhere. Yeah, highly, highly recommend it. Like I said, it's even included the covers and posters, etc. Really enjoyable. The third volume will be coming out in May, I think it is, and that one will be really interesting because that's when you get a slightly more experienced Glenn Fabry returning to the strip, and chef's kiss, some of the most beautiful artwork ever seen in a comic. My next definitive edition that I will be getting will be Nemesis the Warlock Volume 3. So when I get that, I'll do a look at that as well because they're basically like getting an artist edition, but not an artist edition, but it's like the perfect collection of a strip from a comic. High quality paper, oversized format, but really easy to look through. And it's got all the bells and whistles, all the extras, plenty of back matter, and matter interspersed in between. I love this format. I love this and the Essential 2000 AD is what I've done reviews of as well. So I hope that you enjoy that. And if you're umming and ahhing about getting these, I recommend dip your toes in. Maybe try volume 1 of this and volume 1 of Nemesis Warlock, see which one resonates best with you, because they're both kind of like fantasy, but not, if that makes sense. So I hope you enjoy that. Bye.